A lawyer working with the family of a Chula Vista mother who has been missing for nearly 3 months is talking with News 8 about the case.
As News 8's David Goffredson reports, the attorney conducted a walkthrough of Maya Millette's house 4 days after she went missing.
I went in the house. I immediately noticed the windows all open, the fans on full blast. It was chilly in the house.
Attorney Billy Little went inside the Chula Vista home of Maya Millette on Monday, January 11th, and conducted a walkthrough with her husband Larry days after the woman went missing.
I was mostly at that point seeing if I could smell anything, if I could smell any bleach or smell the smell of a dead body. And of course, there's absolutely no smell.
Family members confirmed they contacted Little to help them find the missing mother of 3.
When I went to the bedroom, I immediately noticed a hole probably 10 inches long by about 6 to 8 inches tall, rectangular shape that had been freshly repaired. Let's say the door is locked. You wanted to break in the door or get to the door, you could punch through that hole, reach through the other side and unlock the door from the other side.
Inside the garage, Little says he discovered a freezer was missing.
I called Chula Vista Police and I said, hey, there's a freezer missing from the garage. Then there was no action, so I found the freezer myself. I went over and found it from one of Larry's relatives.
For months now, Little has been collecting evidence, including hundreds of text messages sent in 2020 by Maya's husband Larry to friends and family.
He started by complaining to family members. He started by accusing his wife of having an affair, going to her supervisor, insisting that male co-workers be moved with absolutely no evidence that there was an affair going on.
Some of the messages included photos. This one looks like an altar with lit candles. Others include biblical quotes talking about adulterous women, like this one saying, "Her feet go down to death, her steps lead straight to the grave."
It started ramping up as 2020 went on, and as May started moving more and more towards a divorce, he became more and more desperate.
Little says the day Maya contacted a divorce attorney is the last day anybody heard from her.
There are a number of bits of information that are circumstantial in nature about this.
We reached out to Chula Vista Police. They won't talk about evidence in the case, but they did confirm they have been in contact with Little.
We are aware of the instances he's described, and he may not be aware of what our detectives have done, but we have in fact followed up and conducted follow-up and continue to conduct follow-up.
Now, we also reached out to Larry Millette, the husband. He texted us back, and he claims that attorney, Little, posed as a law enforcement officer to get inside his home. The attorney completely denies that. Millette also texted us a quote, "My wife is a good woman. She is missing, and everything else is just noise." Back to you.
And David, Maya has been missing for nearly 3 months now. We know her family will not stop searching for her, and they will be out again this weekend.
They'll be out at 7 a.m. tomorrow along Proctor Valley Road. They're really kind of searching blindly, and they've asked for Chula Vista Police to give them some direction on where they should search. I talked to the captain about that. He said if they had any indication, any evidence of where Maya might be, they would certainly pass it along to the family, but they just don't have any information to pass along on where to search.
Hope we get some new answers soon. Thanks, David. In less than 2 weeks, indoor concerts, live theater, and other private gatherings are expected to be allowed here again in California. Governor Gavin Newsom is also pushing for more people to get vaccinated.
So excited about this. I started talking ahead of time. I'm sorry there. The governor visited a local clinic today and touted San Diego's progress, even talking about a potential green tier. News 8's Elizabeth Sanchez has more on how the state is gearing up.
The governor says the best way to ease restrictions is for more people to get vaccinated. He and local officials went to a vaccination pop-up center today to spread the message.
All right, so this is for you.
As more people get vaccinated, the state is announcing a new blueprint that allows more people to get together indoors and outdoors. Outdoor gatherings in the red tier can have up to 25% more capacity, increasing to 50% in the orange tier and 100% capacity in the yellow tier if all guests are tested or show proof of full vaccination. Indoor gatherings for live events or performances under the red tier increases to 25% capacity if all guests are tested or show proof of full vaccination. In the orange tier, capacity increases to 35%, and in the yellow tier, capacity increases to 50%. With increased capacity, state officials also announced indoor venues can have fully vaccinated sections with masks. More guidance on how to accomplish that hasn't been worked out, but State Public Health Officer Dr. Thomas Aragon says they're working on how venues will accomplish this.
So we anticipate that in the future that these solutions will be digital. So currently it's going to be self-verification, but in the future we imagine that companies are already developing digital solutions.
The updated blueprint will take effect April 15th when eligibility for the vaccine expands to anyone 16 and older. Meanwhile, the governor says the more people who get vaccinated, the better off California is. But he adds the state will remain the most restrictive,
which will allow cities and counties like San Diego to move more quickly through these tiers, ultimately getting to a green tier.
For the first time, we heard the governor mention a new green tier, which means fewer restrictions. He says more details on that is to come in the coming weeks. Elizabeth Sanchez, News 8.
Tonight, San Diego County is seeing nearly twice as many new COVID cases as there were yesterday. County health officials are reporting 496 new cases. That is up from 252 yesterday, but that is because more people got tested. The percentage of cases is about the same. Just under 3% of more than 18,000 tests came back positive. COVID-related hospitalizations increased by 5 to 201, while the ICU count fell by 2 to 61. An additional 13 deaths were reported today. The death toll here in the county now stands at 3,568.
Tonight, one Capitol police officer is dead. Another is in the hospital after a man rammed them with his car at a barricade outside the Capitol building. The driver was shot and killed by police. Now investigators are trying to figure out what led to the second deadly attack at the Capitol this year. Skylar Henry has the latest from Washington.
National Guard troops raced toward the Capitol Friday afternoon, then lined up shoulder to shoulder in a show of force. Law enforcement officials say a car had tried to breach the perimeter of the Capitol, hitting two Capitol Hill police officers and ramming into a barrier.
The suspect did exit the vehicle with a knife in hand, and at that time he started to lunge toward, run aggressively toward U.S. Capitol Police Office.
Police say the suspect managed to stab an officer before police shot him. Emergency crews loaded two stretchers into ambulances. Capitol Police Officer William Billy Evans, an 18-year veteran of the force, died of his injuries. The suspect, 25-year-old Noah Green, also died.
It does not appear that he is known to the Capitol Police or the Metropolitan Police Department at this time. It does not appear to be terrorism related, but obviously we'll continue to investigate.
The scene unfolded while Congress was on recess. President Biden had left for Camp David, and the White House press secretary was in the middle of a press conference.
I'm obviously not aware, as Kelly acknowledged, of the situation at the Capitol. The President of the United States always travels with a national security rep.
The incident comes 3 months after a mob of armed insurrectionists stormed the U.S. Capitol as Congress was voting to certify Joe Biden's presidential win.
Law enforcement took down fencing around the outermost perimeter around the Capitol complex about a week ago. Cars, unless they were cleared by authorities, couldn't even get close to the buildings.
Also last week, several lawmakers from both parties pushed for a bill that would remove permanent fencing around the Capitol. Skylar Henry, CBS News, Washington.
The second officer is reportedly in stable condition. His injuries are not life-threatening. Authorities believe the suspect was acting alone, and there is no ongoing threat.
Today's incident in Washington is just another example of security issues and risks that Capitol Police face.
It's also the second time in 3 months that the Capitol Police Force has lost one of its own. Joining us tonight with some perspective is former San Diego and Chula Vista Police Chief David Bejarano. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you and good evening. Pleasure to be with you.
What is your reaction when you first see how this played out? And I guess any time you see officers lose their life in the line of duty?
Well, let me begin by extending my thoughts and condolences to the officer's family, the Capitol Police Department. It's tragic, it's unfortunate, and once again, we're reminded of the dangers that officers face every day. And in light of the fact that the Capitol Police Department, the families are still recovering from the loss of another officer or officers on January the 6th. Just a shocking another day for law enforcement, especially for the Capitol Police Department.
A very heavy-hearted day, especially for the U.S. Capitol Police family. We know that the barbed wire fencing that secured the perimeter for this entire time since the riots happened in January were just recently taken down. As a former police chief, what do you believe they are discussing in terms of security moving forward and protecting these officers?
Well, without a doubt, after what we saw on January the 6th, the attack on the U.S. Capitol, and then we saw all the additional security measures that were in place, a perimeter fencing, interior fencing, barricades, additional law enforcement supported by National Guard. There will be a reassessment of security. An officer lost his life. He did his job as far as preventing entry into the Capitol grounds. But as you mentioned, in the last few weeks, they did remove the perimeter fencing, and they're going to have to rethink that now. At the same time, you have to balance the public access to the U.S. Capitol, members of Congress. But once again, it's a more dangerous environment. It's a new target as far as democracy in the U.S. government. So there's going to be a lot of work, a lot of changes regarding physical security and technology and staffing.
Former San Diego and Chula Vista Police Chief David Bejarano joining us on a sad day as a Capitol Police officer. Another lost his life today in an incident there. We thank you for your time and expertise.
Thank you. Have a good evening.